great weekend of fights. Gave you guys a lot of winners. And we hit again. So this first part of the live stream, we're going to go over what happened this past weekend. If you guys followed any of my leads, I'd like to know which ones you hit on. And then obviously we're going to focus. A lot of the questions have been around this midweek top rank card in Japan, headlined by Jin Sasaki taking on Brian Norman Jr. But first things first, I want to welcome everybody to the live stream. Whenever you get here, whether it's on the live or you catch it on our playlist, could you like the video? It's all I ask of you. Goats in the house. I know I got a lot of messages on the side about this past weekend, and I put our wins up. I put our losses up. We started the weekend off a little bit rough. I lost that Kambosos fight. I did not predict Nonito Donaire to come in there and look as good as he did. I got to watch the fight afterwards, and he didn't stop Kambosos. The fight got stopped due to headbutts. There was a head clash in the first, a head clash in the third, and I think the final head clash came in the ninth, and then they went to the cards, and Donaire won a rightful decision. So moving forward on that one, I put together a last-minute 9-leg parlay headlined by the John Fernandez fight against Nunes. I asked you guys about that on the live stream. Some of you guys went Nunes is the dog. I went Fernandez. That was the biggest risk versus reward at $1.40. We hit a 9-leg, which paid 2-1, got back on our long parlay winning ways, and then that tailgated us into the Method of Victory 2-way parlay, which hit 7-1, which I hit huge. I went heavy on Cruz by stoppage and Hitchins by stoppage, and those were fights that I covered all week. Those are fights that I broke down, and I was really comfortable on both sides. And if you followed my lead, we hit. So moving forward, I did get a last-second UFC prediction. I gave you guys 6 fights. As always, there's always one. I hit on all 5 except that last one. Kamaru Usman mauled Buckley. Kamaru Usman fought like a veteran, did what he had to do to win. The 5th round got a little bit dicey for him, but at 38 years old, man, he's still there. He impressed me, and Buckley's going to take a lot from that defeat. You know, you got to learn to defend the double leg. It's wild to see, even at this stage of the game, in this era of MMA fighters, a lot of guys, or most of the guys, are well-rounded. Buckley, on the downside, kind of showed every future opponent their path to victory. But a great adjustment Buckley made was going from the 3rd round onwards, taking advice from his corner to go from that bladed stance and only give Usman a shot at the single. But Usman still got it. I think he ended up getting, he needed 5 takedowns, 1 in every round, and that eventually won him the fight. But let's stick to boxing. That's our bread and butter. That's when we win money, and we're winning again. It's great to get back on the winning side. We know last week was a bit rough. A couple upsets last week and the week before, but we're here. And let me know if you guys listened. Cruz looked good. He did what I thought he was going to do. Hitchins looked good. I predicted the viral moment, guys, and we saw exactly what happened. I said he was due for a knockout, that he was due to stand on the ropes. Everything from him stopping George to him literally standing on the ropes and looking at the crowd, we called that. My man, Salvador Pineda, thank you now. Okay, here we go. Salvador Pineda, I appreciate you supporting my channel. Tipping your bookie, which is excellent. That makes me feel really good, and I appreciate the value. So let's get into it. We want that Brian Norman Jr., Jin Sasaki, guys. I'm going heavy on this fight, just so you guys know. David, I'll get to you in a second. I want to answer this question. Let me cover Brian Norman Jr. first real quick. Let's do this. We're 4 minutes in. We're going to get to Brian Norman Jr. right now. I've done my film study. Stay tuned to the channel. I'll be uploading my edited, produced, and analyzed and prediction, but I'm going to tell you what I see so far. And I'm also going to tell you, this is how confident I am in my pick so far. The money, the 2-1 money I won on my 9-leg parlay, I'm keeping it in my betting account, and I'm going all in on the Norman fight, just the Norman fight. And here's what I see. I cashed out my 7-1 Method of Victory parlay because that was a lot of money. So also, guys, for new gamblers here, if you guys win, create boundaries for yourself that when you get to a certain amount of winnings, take it out and put it in your bank account. What I always tell people is, if you have your bills organized, and if your winnings could pay a bill, take it out. So that's how I look at it. Whether it's your car bill, your rent, your electric bill, your phone bill, whatever it is, that's a good system to have moving forward to get into a healthy habit rather than wanting to get rich and you're up, and then you lose it all. Get in the habit of winning and deducting your money out. Okay, moving forward. Brian Norman Jr., Sasaki. Guys, Brian Norman Jr. is the youngest male champion right now. Doesn't get spoken about enough. I'm going to give you some variables about Norman Jr. I'm going to give you some variables about Jin Sasaki and why I'm leaning on who I'm leaning. Norman Jr., look it up. Nope, he doesn't. I don't think he gets the flowers he deserves. He's 24 years old. He's the youngest champion in boxing for the males. And when you look at his pedigree before he got signed to Top Rank, this is a kid who had, I think it's over 5 or 6 wins in Mexico before he was 18 years old. So at 24 years old, his father, who was a former pro, molded his son, the Assassin 2, the second assassin, the second coming, into who he is. So even if his career stopped right now, if the story on Norman Jr. stopped right now, the history books will always say and forever say Brian Norman Jr. was a world champion. That being said, he's an aggressive fighter, fights on his front foot. He has good movement. He's a great athlete. And more impressive than everything I just said, what I really like about Brian Norman Jr. is where his head's at. We last saw him fight against Derek Cuevas. And we broke that fight down. We broke Cuevas down. We know Cuevas came in with 1 loss. Brian Norman Jr. stopped him. We won money on that fight. I win a lot of money on Brian Norman Jr. over the last few years. This will be his second fight of 2025. The most important thing in boxing is what? Staying active. What have you done for me lately? His fight against Cuevas, I feel he added another level defensively. I feel that he closed some gaps in this guard, especially in the pocket. We know that Brian Norman Jr. is a guy who will punch with you. So that mentality is there. That dog is there. That's one of my favorite things about a fighter. And it's one of those things that we talked about last night. If you rewind and look at the flaws of Michiro versus Cruz, Michiro wasn't punching with Cruz. He was letting Andy Cruz get off, and he was defending here, getting caught with that straight right to his head. He could have used swing punching with him. But guys, that is a psychological innate thing that's either built into a fighter or it isn't. You can train for it, but it has to be a psychological thing. And I know whoever just said Brian's coming off a year layoff, you're wrong. We just documented his last fight about 10 weeks ago. He just starts Derek Cuevas. So moving forward, front foot fighter, has power, has the mindset, never been beaten, knockout artist, and he's not a finished product either. Not a finished product. So that's what makes Norman Jr. exciting. Jin Sasaki. Okay, Jin Sasaki in BoxRec's awkward algorithm, however they do it. You could go there now. Sasaki is one of the highest ranked fighters at 147 pounds. He also likes to fight off of the front foot. If you think Norman Jr. has flaws defensively, wait till you see Sasaki's flaws. We'll talk about Sasaki's flaws first, and then I'll talk about his strengths. Sasaki's flaws are going to be defensively. He doesn't move as well. What Sasaki is going to want to do is bait Norman into a dogfight and stop Norman from moving. So this is going to come down to, will Brian Norman Jr. play that game? We will get to see Brian Norman Jr.'s fight IQ. His fight IQ and his ego will be tested. And if Sasaki wins those battles and gets Brian Norman Jr. to fight his fight, Sasaki will definitely have a chance to beat Norman Jr. Also, Jin Sasaki is a great body puncher. The reason for this is a lot of the Japanese fighters are. It's something in their training. They love going to the body. They love breaking their opponent's hands down and then going up top. But because of this, they take a lot of risks. And we know, if you don't set the body up, if you go straight to the body, think about what Hitchins did last night. And it's something in the first few rounds, he was headhunting. But what he was doing was he was setting up that gorgeous jab. And after the third round, I was live streaming. If you were on my live stream, I told you guys, I was like, there's not a lot of things to dissect about Hitchins right now. I love everything he's doing, but I would like to see him work the body more and stop headhunting. From the fourth round on, started doing that. That was obviously his game plan. Jab heavy, jab heavy, jab heavy. Mid-rounds, work the body, break George down to the body. Boom, he gets the stoppage. Great body work. Now, Hitchins set that up. Hitchins just didn't go naked to the body. He set that up over a couple rounds. That trap was beautiful. He laid out a plan of attack. That kid's fight IQ has always been through the roof. Sasaki doesn't do that. Sasaki will go straight to the body, leaving his head, leaving Sasaki's head here, and he takes a lot of damage, and those are things he doesn't do well. I think his body work is going to be better than Norman Jr., but right now, as we stand, I'm leaning on Norman Jr. to get the stoppage. So that's my quick breakdown. Like I said, stay tuned to the channel. I'm uploading that video. You'll get to see Sasaki's highlights. You'll get to see Norman Jr.'s highlights. I'm going to go over the resumes. I'm going to talk about the pros and cons. We're going to talk about what's at stake and, you know, the height advantage, the reach advantage, what each one does well. Sasaki's a year younger than Norman Jr. So, and, you know, you can never undervalue the benefit of being a fighter who's a world champion. You mix that with Norman Jr. traveling 7,000 miles to Japan, putting his hand up, like, yeah, I'm going to fight this dude. Let's do it. And when you look at Sasaki's only loss, Andy Hiroka. Andy Hiroka's a dog, division down. Sasaki missed weight for that fight, and Andy Hiroka stopped him. That fight was scheduled to be at 140 pounds. We know how good Hiroka is, though. All right, guys, let's get to some of these questions. What's up, Dwayne? What's up, Golden Boy? I hope everybody is enjoying their day, enjoying their weekend. Guys, happy Father's Day to you fathers. Callum Walsh, Brian Norman, I like it. We'll have a counterpunch here. Yeah, and you know what? It's a good point Next Gen just brought up. I like Norman Jr., you know, about the counterboxing. To be a great counterboxer, you have to have good speed. And Norman Jr. doesn't have, like, in the division, he's not really known for having like the most blazing speed, but he's fast enough, and his counterboxing's good. There's a lot to like about Brian Norman Jr. And, you know, you mix that with, like I said, the mindset. I mean, the detractors are going to talk about the defense. Kingdom Life brings up a great point, guys, and that's the narrative I feel going into the Sasaki fight. It's another thing, you know, you get on my breakdown videos and my predictions is that the path to victory and the narrative I give you guys in each video, if you didn't pick up on it, I say the narrative of this fight will be the Hitchins versus George fight. I said the narrative of this fight will be Hitchins' jab. The narrative of this fight with Norman Jr. and Sasaki will be what Brian Norman Jr. decides to do in terms of his game plan versus Sasaki. Boca Chica rematch next year. You guys love Boca Chica. You guys love Boca Chica. No shade to Boca Chica. He's had some, you know, unfortunate. These guys, if you don't know Boca Chica, they're referencing he fought Brian Norman Jr. The fight was declared, I think it was a no contest due to headbutts, and then we just saw him lose to Tiger Johnson. Tiger didn't look spectacular, but it was still L. Boca Chica hasn't won a fight in over 5 years. But I mean, the facts are the facts. He has a fan base, and hats off to him. Good boxer. He has to get on the winning ways. Yeah, that Havelock, 100%. He would not. What is boxing a sport of, guys? What have you done for me lately? Keep it moving forward. And Brian Norman Jr. gave an interview either yesterday or the day before, and he's only 5'8". So he said something I found interesting. He said that he's going to stay at 47 as long as his body allows him to stay. The reason why I find that interesting, because at 5'8", it's not a massive frame, but, you know, I've never seen Norman Jr. in person. He must cut a lot of weight to make 47. I know a lot of boxing heads are on this live stream. Could any of you guys verify that? Has anyone here either, you know, have you met Brian Norman Jr.? Have you seen him fight live? Is he like, you know, some guys are, you know, physically bigger than other guys. Like George Kambosos doesn't have a big frame. When you meet him, you'd kind of be sort of like shocked with, you know, how much he's done with how little physical attributes he has. He's like longer looking, but he's not thick. Norman Jr. said, and only, you know, he said that because he was asked about the weight cut. And he was saying that, you know, he was referring that it's hard for him to make 47. Dwayne. Okay, great question. Who do I see getting the straps? Now, we have to talk about that. We covered the 147-pound division a couple days ago when we found out from Boots' trainer that he was leaving 47. There's still nothing in paper. But, guys, if you follow Jaron's career, everyone here would have to admit it's time to move up to 54. He cuts a lot of weight, and I think he's 27, still young. I really want to see what his frame looks like at 54. Will fighters like Raleigh be elevated? Rohan Polanco is a guy that doesn't get spoken about enough. I'm high on Rohan Polanco. I'd like to see him get a shot. There's a lot of questions coming in. Yeah, there were rumors of Raleigh getting elevated. We'll see what happens at 47. It's interesting having Boots leave. It opens it up for a lot of these younger guys to step up. Even Mario Barrios in an interview this morning just said that after this fight, he's probably going to go up to 54. So you see these guys having this mass exodus at 47 going to 54. And some of these guys on YouTube still mention Errol Spence Jr., which is insane. One of these guys, I think you guys told me about him. I was trying to watch the Boxing Voice live stream a couple days ago. And no offense, they probably would think the same about my bootleg live streams. But I didn't know the platform, so I'm watching it, and they take a lot of phone calls. You guys know this. And the dude hosting the Boxing Voice was talking about Errol Spence Jr. like he's still in the mix at 47 and 54. I only reference that because I'm like, I don't really see EJ fighting again. But if you do include him in the mix of that mass exodus at 47, Bud Crawford gone, EJ gone, Barrios is talking about he's leaving, Jaron Ennis is probably leaving, Brian Norman Jr. said he's going to stay at 47 as long as possible. That leaves an opening at 47 for a lot of younger fighters to have electric performances. Dwayne Sykes in the house, Boxing Voice. Yeah, I just found out about it, so I'd like to do my research on what that platform is all about. I like holding my platform to as factual as we can keep it. We have debates on this, though, but they're all healthy debates. Next gen, I don't know if it's necessarily the ounce of gloves or the 7 pounds. Pineda. Yeah, so I just heard about him. The longer you guys are on my channel, you'll learn, I don't watch other content creators. I run my own business. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a coach. I write books, and I love boxing. So I don't really sit here and watch other content creators unless you guys tell me. So to answer your question about the 10-ounce gloves, I don't know if it's necessarily the 10-ounce gloves when Virgil went up or that 7 pounds. Because think about the 7 pounds, especially from 47 to 54, that's a big difference, especially in your first few fights. There's a power back. Great point, next gen. Yeah, Bachram, man, there's so many rumors floating around about Bachram, Virgil, what's happening on the undercard of Canelo versus Bud. There's so many guys at 54. And we'll see what happens. Dude, a fight that's flying under the radar. I'm interested in seeing that Chino fight versus Xander Zayas. They're fighting soon. And Xander's a big guy at 54. DGO, the body caters to the average U.S. fan base. It's crazy how those boxing channels who really don't talk about the minutia of boxing have such big fan bases. Johnny, what's the book called that you wrote? I have 2 of them, Landslide. My first published book came out in 2018. Barnes & Nobles in America used to carry it. It's called Ungoogleable. That was my first podcast. It was called Ungoogleable. I would interview world champions, scientists, entrepreneurs. In that first book, Ungoogleable, there's interviews with Layla Ali, Evander Holyfield, Hoist Gracie, people like that. My second book came out in 2023 called The 24-Hour Reset. That's basically a guide to help guys like yourself and me to live a healthy lifestyle without leaving the house. So little tips and tricks. And there's interviews in that. Chris Algieri's in my second book. George Foreman interview in my second book. A lot of sports scientists. So I come from a journalist interview background where I'm sitting down with fighters, scientists, coaches, and I'm asking questions. But Lubin versus Murtazayev, I heard about that. I'd love to see that. And Erickson Lubin, guys, Lubin, he's coming off that Argiro Holmes fight. Lubin is a guy that, when you think about when he fought Charlo, he was young. He's only 29. Yes, Mar the Prince. We see eye to eye. July 26th. I love that top-ranked card. And we're going to see, I was really impressed with Chino Garcia against Conwell. I bring it up all the time. And I bet against him. Whenever I see a fighter prove me wrong in the ring. I went heavy on Conwell. I'm still high on Charles Conwell. And I told this story earlier in the week, is that one of my buddies on social media on Instagram, He runs a page called Ohio Runs Boxing. His name is Marcus, and he's a really knowledgeable guy from Ohio, and Conwell's from Cleveland. And I asked him about Conwell before the Chino Garcia fight, and he was like, look, mate, great amateur, undefeated, great power. He was like, I worry about Conwell's fight IQ entering the pocket. He called it. He saw it. He knew about Chino Garcia's fight IQ. I didn't see Chino Garcia's path to victory beating Conwell, but then I didn't also predict Conwell being one-dimensional on the inside. Conwell had no answers for Garcia. Garcia beat Conwell with his back on the ropes, which is very impressive. David Eister, maybe he will prove me wrong. Bruce Shushu, Rohan, look at that. Look at these names, guys. Emiliano Vargas, Jalalov, look at these names. I'm high on Shushu Carrington. When I've always talked highly of Bruce Carrington, but when I saw the way he beat my boy, Deadly Dana Colwell. Dana Colwell is one of the highest rated 126 fighters in Australia. Dana's a super nice guy. He's an Aboriginal fighter, and he's a great technical boxer, and he's long. Carrington rarely ever fights a guy longer than him at 26. When I saw Carrington, the way he handled Shushu, or when I saw Shushu handle Colwell, I was like, damn, this kid is legit. And then when you see Carrington, how he carries himself, Carrington is a very, very fun prospect. Contender, Jamel back, I heard. What do you think of Chavez? Guys, I'm going to put a poll up for the Chavez-Jake Paul fight, because you guys know me. Great call, David. I'll finish that point and get to Chino. I'm torn on covering Jake Paul on my channel, just out of my reverence for the sport of boxing. So I'll put a poll up. I'll do it in like a week or so. I'll do a vote poll. I'll ask you guys, do you want me to cover Jake Paul versus Chavez Jr.? And based on the results, I'll cover it if you guys want me to. But as we stand, I don't know if I'm going to cover it. But David Eister brought up a good point about Chino Garcia, about the Mexicans and learning from their resumes. Because if you look and break down Chino Garcia's resume going into the Conwell fight, and you look at some of his losses, man, I didn't know anybody who was taking him except Marcus from Ohio Runs Boxing. Yeah, Goat just dropped us a hot take about 126 and 130, Carrington and Raymond Ford. Guys, here's my hot take. I know a lot of people are high on Raymond Ford. I like the latest version of Raymond Ford. He's kind of changed. It's tough for a fighter to change their fight styles. Raymond Ford, 5 fights ago in terms of how he fought versus what he looks like now, he looks like a different guy. I don't think Raymond Ford beat Sugar Nunes. I don't, dude. I think Sugar Nunes, the dude we saw who went to Japan, what he did, in the fight we covered, that was the Rikishi fight. Sugar Nunes is a nightmare. Front foot, got a chin on him, throws bombs. Dude, I don't know if Raymond Ford has those answers. I don't. We'll see. It's not my complete prediction, but right now, from what I see from Sugar Nunes, it's hard for me to bet against him. He gets hit a lot, but that style's so fun. Sugar Nunes is, all right, put it this way. If William Zepeda had Nunes' power, I would pick Zepeda over Shakur. Here we go. And at least, guys, you can side with I'm not one-sided. You know what I mean? Like, I'm as authentic as I can be with about when I see fight breakdowns. So I'm not a fanboy with either guy. But I think Eduardo Nunes is that dude, mate. Like listening to Anthony Kakachi. I'll get to you more in a second. Listening to Anthony Kakachi admit that he didn't want to fight Nunes because of the style and he would make more money against Lee Wood, that made me think, like, damn, this is a world champion who chose to have his belt vacated to not fight a guy. And then Nunes fought the next week, Nunes versus Ball. I got Sugar Nunes, mate. I'm not high on Nick Ball. I like Nick Ball as an athlete. Dude, whenever you have guys, I think Kakachi do you got Kakashi beating Ford? I think Kakashi would give Ford all he wants. Look, man. I like Raymond Ford. He's not a finished product. I don't see him. I think there's guys who beat him, dude. And I want to. So where were we at? There's a lot of stuff going on. I was on a thought. Nick Ball. Okay, managed very well. Nick Ball. Whenever there's a fight between a really good athlete and a really aggressive, skilled boxer, I think Nick Ball, when we see Nick Ball step up against guys who can match the pace, match the output, but then bring a different element to the game, I don't think Nick Ball is who a lot of people think he is. I don't like his. I don't know. I don't hate Nick Ball. I just see I think there's a list of guys who beats him. I don't think he beats Ford. I don't think he stops Ford. I should know this. The Raymond Ford, is that fight signed? Yeah. No, it's not signed. It is signed. Foreman's fighting Kakashi. Yeah, guys, I stay in my vacuum week to week. I got Ford's. We covered him fighting the Gunnerman Thomas Matisse, another Ohio boy, Orlando Gonzalez. He lost the split to Nick Ball. But like I said, in my opinion of Raymond Ford, he is trending in the right direction. I like the adjustments Raymond Ford has made in his offensive game, in his sort of punch selection, how he fights. So I don't think he's a finished product. If he goes in, just like I said about Hitchins stopping George, if Hitchins goes in to stops George, I think our conversation about the champions at 140 will change. Who beats who? If Ford goes in and stops Kakashi, we're going to have to just wait to have that chat. It could happen. Kakachi's no picnic. He doesn't have one-punch knockout power, but he has power enough to, have his opponent's respect. And Ford doesn't have one-punch knockout power. This is an interesting matchup. The thing against Kakashi is how much has he left in the ring? I think he's 36 now. He's had sort of this Indian summer career. If you would have told me when he was 26 that at 36 he'd world champion guy, getting world title, I'd be like, there's no way. So it's an interesting matchup. I could definitely see Ford winning as well. But let's wait till we get there. Let's wait. Give us some time. We got Japan in a few days. Vito Melnicki headlining a top rank card. I don't know. I'm not here to hate on any boxer, any young man who's chosen to make a career out of it. But I feel you on. I didn't know is Vito headlining? I thought we got to say it for what it is. He's coming off a majority draw against Connor Coyle. He lost a majority decision to James Martin. What's his resume? You know what I mean? That's one thing whenever guys, we have to understand though and come to terms when it comes to these promoters marketing a fighter and then getting headline fights. It's not always because of where their skill set is. These are promotions. We are promoting a guy. We are marketing a guy. And, Vito, a kid named Vito Melnicki, who fights, he ticks the boxes. Italian kid from Jersey. Think of it, they're catering to the fan base. So I understand that. Is Vito, top 5 guy? Top 10 guy? Top 25 guy? I mean, think about the division. That division's filled with killers. Yeah, Dwayne, I wanted to bet on Algaio. It's good to see him back in the win column. I couldn't. And to answer your question, I didn't get to see did you ask me about the Donaire fight? I had to watch it after. I watched the Donaire versus Campos fight after. What's up, Harache Hurricane in the house? Guys, wherever you're tuning in, I say welcome to the show. Like this video. Toxic, I don't know, man. You don't think Xander Zayas will ever be a champion? Xander Zayas, he ticks a lot of boxes. He's a big dude at 154. We're going to answer a lot. What is he, 22? To say a 22-year-old kid who has all those physical attributes like Xander, been boxing since he was a little kid. We're going to find out a lot against Chino Garcia because Conwell didn't have those answers. It's just, be patient with Xander. Far from a finished product. He's already at the cusp though. And we're going to answer a lot of questions will be answered against Chino Garcia because Chino Garcia is slick. Just watch the Charles Conwell fight. I think Xander will be a champion. If not at 54, maybe it's 60. He's a big dude. He's fizzy, cuts a lot of weight, and he lives in the gym. I always tip my hat to, call me what you will, but I like fighters who live that lifestyle. I got Norman losing to Sasaki. I like the guy, but he keeps his head stuck up in the air. He has been stopped before. Norman been looking sharp. Yeah, I'm leaning Norman stopping Sasaki too. 154 is overrated. Overrated, David, compared to what? For anything to be overrated, we'd have to have a compare and contrast compared to what? What is 154 overrated compared to? 160. It's kind of a swing division. Janibek Elamhanaleh, Carlos Ademas, the old man. They lucky Trammell isn't 5 years younger. But, timeline's a timeline. Okay. David, I like your reasoning. Not as scientific as I thought it was going to be, but at least your reasoning is authentic and it's personal to yourself. So I could definitely respect your reasoning. It's like my reasoning with I don't like domestic heavyweights and I don't like international domestic fights. I'm trash on my international domestic predictions. This is why I didn't do a breakdown video of Alate versus Gorsh. You guys bullied me. You know what? I'm blaming it on you. You guys bullied me into betting on Alate versus Gorsh for sure. I didn't want to bet on that, but you guys kept asking me. And, domestic level international fights, get out of here. I'm done. If you're not a prospect or a contender, I'm done. And then obviously the domestic heavyweights anywhere in the world, I don't really bet on. But just like David said, every time he bets at 154, he loses. I know we're playing lots of the hate in here with Toxic. We need the hate though, baby. We need the hate. The hate allows us, the hate assists us in our personal growth. Got to make adjustments. And Toxic, I made an adjustment. And I won that this week. My adjustment since the hate about Plant losing on the money line is whenever there's a main event money line and it's under $1.10, I'm not picking the money line. I'm picking a method of victory. And so it worked for me the last two cards. Resendez rematch. Yeah, I don't like being cruiserweights or heavies. David, I made good money on Fundora stopping Booker. Yep, that was easy money. Big fan. I love betting on Fundora. What's amazing, these young guys should have stepped up and won and shined. Let's see where Malnicki's at. Look at 54. A guy we don't talk about. If you go down, this is the BoxRec algorithm, guys. So, before you attack it. 154 on BoxRec. Bud, Bakram, Virgil, Xander, Majramov, Keith Thurman, Boacek, Fundora, Lubin, Zhu, Jesus Ramos. That's 1 through 11 of guys that are all potential or have been or will be champions. Which is insane. 1 through 11. What other division has that? Go to other divisions. Oh, that's nice. I want to hear AB say, you can't hit me. Guys, I think AB deserves credit because I hear all the young bucks now saying, let him cook or it's cooked. But I think did AB coin the phrase, he's getting cooked or I'm cooked? Yenis, tell us. Guys, when you go to this division and see, let's talk about the bottom half of the top 20. Chino Garcia at 13. Conwell at 14. Bakary Samake at 15. Connor Bennett at 16. Yenis Tellis at 17. Joshua Kelly at 18. And then Katsarakis at 22. Brandon Adams at 23. There are some guys in the top 25 of 154 is insane. So he didn't coin it. Yeah, I miss AB. To go back to 2013, those press conferences when he's sitting there with who is, damn, my memory slips. Floyd Mayweather's right hand man. I know he stepped away from the money team maybe a couple years ago. I should know his name. He worked with my boy Kelly Pavlik when Kelly left Youngstown and went out to California. Yes, yeah, Mark. gang. Just calling Leonard Ellaby out. Ellaby's just sitting there like, not insane. Oh, the Paulie, I left his belt and his girl. You're right. And AB, man, like on his Instagram, I'm kind of hard on him sometimes. Like some of his content over the last few years, it's like, bro, man, I wish you had more better people around you. Like his fans just call him out. But, that's why you got to love boxing, because the romanticism lies in, for how many people call AB out, he has that many fans. He still has loyal fans. Like we're talking about him right now. You think Boacek is... So what's up, guys, tuning in? We're about 40 minutes in. I'm going to keep this on for an hour. I think it's a good conversation to have, David Iser. Let me create a topic real quick. David just said that he thinks Serhii Boacek doesn't have the hunger to fight. Obviously, he's referring to his last fight against Michael Fox. Now, I brought this up 2 days ago because I compared Boacek's performance against Michael Fox to Canelo's performance against Skull. And then I asked the question, did both of these guys kind of take a fight off on purpose, not wanting to take damage, looking ahead to their next fight? And you could kind of make an argument for that. Did enough to win. And Michael Fox isn't Virgil. He wasn't ever going to fight him how Virgil was going to fight him. So I don't know if Boacek's... I think he just had another kid. I think he's equally as hungry. He hasn't really been promoted properly. I want to see him fight Virgil again. There's a lot of fights to be made. Boacek versus Murtazaev. Jesus. We'll see what happens with Zhu and Fandora. Yeah, it felt like a sparring match, GOAT. I'm going to close the book on my end on AB. But yeah, remember 2 years ago on Twitter? I think somebody brought it up. AB was going after Alicia Bumgarner and was dropping her body list count. Oh my God. He did a video and he was talking about all these Ohio fighters who had like hooked up with her, just totally ignorant. AB is out here wild. Virgil is scared. Virgil is scared of him? Guys, David, this is where we don't see eye to eye. Virgil Ortiz is not scared of any fighter, mate. A guy like Virgil, you cannot just sit there and say that all you have to do is watch Virgil fight. You cannot sit there and say Virgil is afraid of any guy. Now, I was ringside at Tim Tszyu, Starch, and Harrison in Sydney. I don't think he got smoked. He's not willing to... He doesn't have that... Dude, he's older. He had a good career. Tony Harrison, not the same guy he was. Tim Tszyu just walked him down, and it was a bad knockout against the ropes. That place was electric. I was fifth row to Kelly Pavlik versus Jermaine Taylor 1 in Atlantic City. I was in the fourth row to Kelly Pavlik versus Max Sertuche in Disneyland in the Pond. And I was in about the seventh row to Tim Tszyu versus Harrison in Sydney. Granted, there were 20,000 people in Sydney. That was the most electric arena I'd ever seen. Sydney goes crazy for Tszyu. And that Tszyu, before the Fandora fight, was a different beast. Yeah. Christian, we hit big. I hit a 7-1, Christian. I picked Cruz and Hitchins to win by stoppage. Got 7-1 odds, went heavy, and then I also hit a 9-leg. We got some. Let me go over Ohio Runs Boxing. Let me go over some fights this week, guys. I got the list up. So we obviously, it's my Thursday night. It's Wednesday. I heard Gary today say that the Norman Jr. is fighting Thursday, but on my calendar, it says it's Thursday here in Australia. You're Wednesday. I don't know if that's an error. But Norman Jr. versus Sasaki. We got Galal Yafai fighting. I know a lot of people have been asking me about Galal Yafai versus Rodriguez. That's a different card in England. And then you got that ESPN Plus card. And I don't think Melnicki is headlining. Isn't Jahai Tucker headlining? I think Jahai Tucker might be headlining against Lorenzo Simpson. But there's money to be made. And there's other cards sprinkled out throughout the world. Right now, it's Japan with Norma Jr., which will be, I expect to go into the weekend up a lot. So fingers crossed. I expect Norman to handle business. And then I think that top rank card in New Jersey, I don't want to ever say free money, so I'll say easy money. But we know Top Rank, and we know the channel, our channel here has a history of hitting big, betting big on these top rank cards based off of the matchup, based off of the lack of parity. They like loading up their guys versus, not necessarily 50-50 fights. We'll see how that works for us. I'm uploading Norman Jr. and Sasaki, my breakdown and prediction today, so stay tuned. It's 7:15 in the morning here, Monday morning. It's Father's Day where you guys are. So to all the fathers out there, happy Father's Day. We're going to stay on the live stream for a bit more. Looking ahead, in 2 weeks, Christian and Billy's fighting. Open books, Christian and Aranta, Top Rank is in ESPN are splitting. Eric Bazignan's fighting. This is in 2 weeks. Deontay Wilder in 2 weeks. Jake Paul in 2 weeks. But, all right, on that undercard, Gilbert. So you got Zerto, Holly Holm, Floyd Schofield, Curiel on the undercard of the Jake Paul. So guys, I might not break down and do a produced and edited video of the Jake Paul fight, but there are fights on that undercard I'm definitely gonna feature. Yeah, Deontay Wilder is fighting again on June 27th in Kansas. June 27th in a 10-round fight against Terrell Herndon. So yeah, staying in the moment this week to answer PJ's question. We're betting on the Japanese card. Brandon, I love it. There you go. Brandon followed the lead. He bet $100 on Cruz and Hitchins. Won. Hopefully you guys listen to me. Won. I just, sometimes things just fall in line with the breakdowns, analysis, and the prediction. I was really, really secure with those picks. I know, Christian. I don't know. I'd have to look on why they did that. Yeah, Havelock. I have 3 fights right now that I could bet on the Japanese card, Havelock. So maybe using this as an example, I think you guys might get the Araneta fight. You guys should be able to bet on Christian Araneta. And then there's a really fun prospect out of Japan who's 3-0. I think it's Yuya Oku. So I think there are 3 fights in Japan. So I'm gonna start building our long parlay tomorrow on the live stream, but I'm gonna do a one-off on my prop bet with Brian Norman Jr. I'm really, really selling myself on Norman Jr. to stop Sasaki. The odds are right now 221. So I just got to make the decision to pull the trigger now in anticipation if those odds drop. Generally, when you see a guy like Norman Jr., who's, the champion traveling 7,000 miles, fighting on BoxRec, the #1 guy at 47 in Sasaki, the odds for a knockdown shouldn't drop under 200. A knockout shouldn't drop under 200. So I'm going to still wait probably a day. But like I said, stay tuned to the channel. We're uploading that video today. We're going to start building our long parlay for the weekend tomorrow. I mean, where do you guys stand on what's Dana White's wonder child, Connor? Isn't he fighting this week? Colin yeah, Connor Walker. No, he's not fighting. Kona Walker's fighting Leah Taylor. Yeah, Wilder's fighting on BLK Prime. Is BLK Prime still a thing? Because isn't BLK Prime the streaming service that streamed Bud versus, was it A Venetian? I like Yafai. Yafai wins that fight. I'm waiting. So Sal, I'm just gonna wait to see if I could get a method of victory. So somebody Mayweather. We could do a whole live stream if Mayweather beats the guys at 54. Yeah, they did 2 fights, I think. Who's funding BLK Prime for them to still be a thing? Yeah, right now Galal on the money line here is like $1.24. If Wilder can't beat Herndon, I hope we don't see him fight again. Prime Floyd Wood. I didn't like Floyd. John, do you think Brandon Lee gets the stoppage? Give me a sec. Before I predict that, give me some time to look at that fight. I don't want to just say yes or no without really looking at his opponent and seeing what he looked to this day. Man, Radio Raheem almost died. When that happened, Radio Raheem thought he was like brothers with Wilder. You could tell. Raheem was shocked that Wilder was coming at him like that because he thought, I guess they are friends or they had a close relationship. And then when Deontay got triggered by that, he was kind of like, even in the video, to this day. Yeah, he did almost end up like Charlie Z in the house. Dude, talk about a madman, Charlie Z. Early days of was he the OG of YouTube boxing, celebrity boxing? Yeah, all-time quote to this day. I still say that around my boys. My girlfriend heard me say it. I think she asked me if I wanted pasta, and I said that. She was like, you're so weird. I was like, you don't know. You don't understand. I know. That right hand, mate. Dude, I got to be honest, that Fabio Wardley knockout of Hooney was akin to some Deontay Wilder performances. It was. There are some parallels there. But, yeah, Wilder, they have similar stories too, guys. We know it's well documented about Wilder's story. You know what? I might be motivated to do a video on this. Wilder got into boxing, he told the whole story on Joe Rogan a few years ago. He was in his late teens and he was driving, I think, a Coca-Cola truck or a Budweiser truck. And he saw a gym and he felt like, hey, I could just be a journeyman. I can make a couple $1,000 and pay for my daughter who has special needs. And then a few years later, that's why they call him the Bronze Bomber, he finds himself in the Olympics and won a bronze medal. And Fabio, the same thing. Fabio Wardley wasn't driving a truck, but he was working in recruiting in London. So recruiters, the recruitment industry here in Sydney, huge. The recruitment industry in London, huge. You don't need a lot of skills to do it. You're basically a middleman to get people hired. Corporate finance jobs, etc. And Wardley started his boxing they do these down here too. They call them corporate. It's like corporate fight night. There's another slang term that the Brits use. But all these finance guys will train at a real boxing gym for like 10 weeks. And then they sell tickets and they get the experience of walking out, getting their name called. And they fight like, I think 4 1-minute rounds, maybe 3 1-minute rounds. And this is how Wardley started boxing. I think he was 21. And now, very similar. I know. I like Blair Cobb's. Blair Cobb's story, insane. You guys know anything about Blair Cobb's story? This is a kid sneaking back and forth over the border, eventually being homeless, sleeping in his car. Blair Cobb's is, this is why we love boxing. Boxing's filled with these stories. Guys, do you know about Miracle Matthew? Matthew Said Muhammad? Do you know his story? I know he recently passed away, but I spent my first early years on YouTube doing like 12-minute, 15-minute boxing documentaries, and then YouTube took that channel down. It was the early days where I wasn't aware of what copyright strikes were. So I would write a whole documentary audio. I would write it out, and then I would use footage of the fighter's story, and I would narrate over it. And Matthew Said Muhammad, they called him Miracle Matthew from Philly. This dude, he was abandoned on the side of a highway when he was 2 years old as a baby. And a nun, somebody who worked in the convent at the Catholic Church, saw this little baby on the side of the road abandoned and took him in. And in these early years, he was raised in the convent with Catholic nuns. And he goes on to become a world champion in boxing. Matthew Said Muhammad. His nickname was Miracle Matthew. People forget about it. People forget about him. I think he recently passed away too. But man, beautiful story. This would have happened in the early 80s, I think. But boxing, I just used that. Boxing is filled with these stories. And then, you know, and a lot of times it doesn't end well. You know, this Emmanuel Augustus, probably in my opinion, one of the most mismanaged careers of all time. Emmanuel Augustus, if this guy had a promoter, this guy would have been a potential, you know, world champion guy. But you look at his record, Augustus was managing his own career, and he would just put his hand up, and look at how many decisions he lost in fights he should have won. Joe Vincent, Sports Tacos, builds into it. Gypsy Joe Harris is another crazy boxing story. Ric Flair was abandoned birth. Woo! You talking about the Rolex wearing? I'm having a hard time keeping these gators down. Woo! Ric Flair, come on, dude. I would say that he wouldn't be able to get away with this now, but he still does. It's hilarious. I'm having a whole time. That was my favorite line because growing up in the 90s, we would go to, what were these stores called in America? They were like the East Coast version of Ross. I think they were Burlington coat factories. I don't know if you guys are on the East Coast, but if you are, you would know what a Burlington coat factory was or a Value City. Value City was when you wanted to act like, you know, you had money, but you really didn't, and you would get these off-brand clothes. And me and my boys would go in there and get gator skin shoes. We would get gator skin shoes. And so, yeah, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing is insane. But when Ric Flair goes, I'm having a hard time keeping these gators down, man, we said that all the time. That dude is insane. Does Burlington still exist? Man, that was my jam back in the day. My biggest beef about Australia, where I live in Sydney, is that they don't have discount stores. It's probably a population thing, but they don't have discount stores. Are we about to lean into some WWF? Burlington's in the DMV. Yeah, Burlington's was the jam. Guys, I got to end this live stream, but this is my favorite bit of the live streams when you boys are still on at the end, because it turns into the Wild West. I start talking about when, you know, getting paid to drive cannabis 1,000 miles in California. Now we're talking about Burlington. TJ Maxx in the house, wrestling his kids. I was a huge Bret the Hitman Hart guy. I'll never forget. I'm going to leave this live stream with this story when the days where I thought wrestling was real. This was either the late 80s or early 90s when Brutus the Barber Beefcake had, I think, the Beefcake Barbershop. And it was a segment on WWF, and this is when you had to watch wrestling in America, like Saturday mornings. And I had to watch it behind my dad's back, because my dad played college football. He was a Czechoslovakian immigrant to America, big old dude. Johnny, stop watching that fake shit. It's fake. And I'd be like, dude, this is my jam. I'm like 9 years old. And I love Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. They were the Rockers. Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty, they were a tag team called the Rockers. They were guests with Brutus the Barber Beefcake at the barbershop. And it was when I think Brutus turned heel. Or maybe Shawn Michaels turned heel. I forget what exactly happened, but I was heartbroken. Also, when Jake the Snake, who was my man, never forget, he just beat the Big Boss Man, and who was the character that escaped from prison? He had the blonde hair, he wore like the orange jumpsuit, and after Jake the Snake's one of his victories, was his name Nails? Nailz? It might have been Nails. I've never told this story to anyone. This is a memory that just lives here for some reason. And Jake the Snake gets handcuffed to the ropes and just gets the living dog shit beaten out of him by this new character. I think his name was Nails. He was a security guard, a prison guard. Anyway, on that note, D-Generation X. Yeah, I remember the 1-2. Man, we can go on and on. I remember before X-Pac was X-Pac, he was the 1-2-3 kid. And in my opinion, it was the greatest upset in WWF history. The 1-2-3 kid, I think he beat Mr. Perfect. Something like that. All right, guys, I got to run. I got to go coach. Stay tuned to the channel. Appreciate all the support. Like this video. Brian Norman Jr. versus Sasaki is being uploaded today. And I'm going live again today to start building our parlay. Let's get it.